Maya Collins sat alone in the dark room, staring at her computer screen. The blue light made her tired eyes hurt, but she could not look away. The numbers and patterns on the screen told a story that nobody else wanted to hear. She had been working at Kepler Station for 6 years now. It was the farthest human outpost in space, a metal city floating in the darkness between stars. 3,000 people lived and worked here, mining asteroids and studying the universe. Maya's job was simple. She listened to signals from deep space and tried to understand them. Most signals were just noise. Stars made noise. Black holes made noise. Even empty space had a kind of hum to it. Maya had learned to tell the difference between natural sounds and something else. And for the past 2 years, she had been hearing something else. The signals came from a place called the Vega Corridor, a stretch of space about 4 light years away. At first, they were weak and easy to miss. But Maya noticed them because they had a pattern. Natural signals were random. These were not random. They repeated. They changed in ways that seemed planned. Maya believed these signals were a language. Something out there was talking. And worse, something out there was listening and answering. She had tried to tell people. She had written reports. She had asked for meetings. She had stood up at science gatherings and shown her data. Every single time, people laughed at her. Commander Daniel Price ran Kepler Station. He was a tall man with gray hair and cold eyes. He had called Maya into his office so many times that she knew every crack in his ceiling. "Collins," he said during their last meeting, "I have real problems to deal with. Supply ships are late. The mining crews are fighting with each other. I do not have time for your alien nonsense. Sir, if you would just look at the pattern analysis." I looked at it. 3 different scientists looked at it. They all say the same thing. It is background radiation. It is stellar wind. It is anything except what you think it is. Maya felt her face grow hot. Those scientists are wrong. And you were right? A junior lieutenant with no advanced degrees knows more than people who have studied astrophysics for 30 years. He shook his head. Listen to yourself. She left his office with her hands shaking. In the hallway, she passed a group of officers who stopped talking when they saw her. She heard someone whisper "Monster Girl" as she walked by. That was her nickname now. The whole station knew about her crazy theory. Even her own brother had turned against her. Kevin Collins was a technical sergeant who worked in the engineering section. They had grown up together on Earth, played together as children, and joined the space service on the same day. But lately, Kevin avoided her. "You are making us both look bad," he told her one night when she caught him in the mess hall. "People ask me about you. They ask if crazy runs in our family. I am not crazy, Kevin." "Then stop acting like it. There are no monsters coming to eat us. Just drop this and be normal again." Maya stopped talking to Kevin after that. The only person who did not laugh at Maya was an old maintenance worker named Henry Cooper. He was 70 years old and had been in space longer than most people had been alive. His job was fixing broken pipes and cleaning air filters. But he had seen a lot of strange things in his long career. "I do not know if you are right or wrong," Henry told her one evening while fixing a light in her office. "But I have learned something in my years. The universe is a big place. It would be strange if we were the only ones in it." "So you believe me?" Henry shrugged his thin shoulders. "I believe you believe it. And you are smarter than most people give you credit for. That is enough for me." It was not much, but it was something. Maya kept working. She tracked every signal, mapped every pattern, and built a picture of what was happening out there in the dark. The picture scared her. The signals were moving closer. Not quickly, but steadily. Whatever was making them was heading toward human space. And the signals were not just talking anymore. They were coordinating. Maya counted at least 12 different sources. all communicating with each other, all moving in the same direction. Like wolves circling a campfire, she thought. Like hunters closing in on prey. She tried one more time to warn people. At a station meeting, she stood up and asked to speak. Commander Price looked annoyed, but let her talk for 5 minutes. Maya showed her newest data. She explained the signal patterns. She pointed out how the sources were moving together, working together. She said that humans needed to prepare for contact with something that might not be friendly. When she finished, the room was quiet. Then Dr. Patricia Lane, the head scientist, started clapping slowly. Not in praise, but in mockery. "Wonderful story," Dr. Lane said. "Very creative. Have you thought about writing science fiction novels? You might have a career there." The whole room laughed. 300 people laughing at her. Maya felt tears burn in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "You will all see," she said quietly. "When they come, you will all see." Commander Price stood up. "That is enough, Lieutenant. I am ordering you to stop this research immediately. Any more talk about aliens or monsters will result in your removal from this station. Do you understand?" Maya understood. She understood that she was alone, that nobody would help her, that humanity was walking blind toward a danger it refused to see. That night, she sat in her small room and cried. She cried for herself, for her ruined career, for the brother who had abandoned her. But mostly, she cried because she knew what was coming and could do nothing to stop it. Her computer beeped. A new signal had appeared, stronger than any before. Maya wiped her eyes and looked at the screen. The signal source was less than 2 light years away now. At the speed the sources were moving, they would reach human space in less than a month. Something was coming. Something big and hungry and old. And Maya Collins was the only person who knew it. The mining ship Horizon's Edge disappeared on a Tuesday. One moment it was there on the tracking screens, moving slowly through an asteroid field. The next moment it was gone. No distress call. No explosion. Just silence. Search teams found the wreckage 3 days later. The ship had been torn apart like paper. Bodies floated in the cold vacuum, frozen and broken. 47 people had been on that ship. Miners, engineers, a cook named Betty who made the best coffee in the sector. All dead. The official report said reactor failure. A terrible accident, but just an accident. Maya knew better. She had tracked the signal burst to those exact coordinates 48 hours before the ship vanished. The signal had been strong and focused, like a spotlight pointing at the horizon's edge, like something marking a target. She went to Commander Price with her findings. He did not even let her finish speaking. "Not this again," he said. "A reactor blew up. It happens. Stop trying to connect everything to your fantasy. Sir, the signal data is clear. Something found that ship and enough." His fist hit the desk so hard that his coffee cup jumped. "I warned you what would happen if you kept this up. One more word about aliens, and you are off this station. Am I clear?" Maya left without answering. 2 weeks later, another ship disappeared. The cargo vessel Blue Star, carrying supplies between colonies. 8 crew members gone without a trace. Again, the official explanation was mechanical failure. Again, Maya found signal activity in the area just before the loss. Then a research colony went silent. Proxima Settlement, a small base on a frozen moon with 63 researchers studying ice formations. When a rescue team finally reached them, they found empty buildings. Food was still on tables. Computers were still running. But every single person was gone. The rescue team also found strange marks on the walls. Burn patterns that did not match any human weapon. Claw marks too big to be made by any known animal. And in one room, they found a message scratched into the metal floor by someone using their fingernails. They came from the dark. This time, people started to worry. Not openly, because nobody wanted to admit that something unexplainable was happening. But Maya noticed the change. More security patrols. More nervous conversations in hallways. More people looking out windows at the stars with fear in their eyes. Commander Price held a station-wide meeting to address the concerns. He stood at the front of the assembly hall and smiled his confident smile. "I know there have been rumors," he said. "I know some people are scared. But I want to assure everyone that there is nothing to fear. We have investigated every incident, and they all have logical explanations. Equipment failures, communication errors, perhaps even human mistakes. But there is nothing out there haunting us. I promise you that." Maya sat in the back of the room, listening. Her heart beat fast. She knew this was her last chance. After tonight, she would probably be sent back to Earth in disgrace. But she had to try one more time. When Commander Price asked if there were any questions, Maya stood up. Her legs felt weak. 300 faces turned to look at her, and she saw the mockery in many of their eyes. Monster Girl was going to say something crazy again. "I need to show everyone something," Maya said. Her voice was steady even though her hands were shaking. She pulled out a small projector and activated it. A hologram appeared in the air above her head. It showed a map of human space, with red dots marking every ship disappearance, every colony that went silent. Lines connected the dots, and those lines formed a pattern. They all pointed inward. They all led toward the heart of human territory. "These are not accidents," Maya said. "Something is hunting us. The signals I have been tracking for years are coordination messages. Multiple entities working together, sharing information about our locations, our movements. They are predators, and we are prey." She showed the signal patterns, the movement data, the correlations between signal bursts and attacks. She laid out everything she had gathered over 6 years of work, everything she had been mocked for believing. "I know you all think I am crazy," she said finally. "I know you have laughed at me and called me names. But I am begging you to listen. Something is coming. Something is already here. And if we do not prepare, if we do not defend ourselves, we will all die." The room was silent when she finished. Maya looked at the faces around her. She saw confusion. She saw doubt. For one moment, she thought maybe, finally, someone would believe her. Then Dr. Patricia Lane started laughing again. And the spell broke. People shook their heads. Someone yelled, "Sit down, Monster Girl." Others joined in the laughter. Commander Price raised his hand for silence. His face was hard. "Lieutenant Collins, you are relieved of duty. Security will escort you to your quarters, where you will stay until we can arrange transport back to Earth. You need help, and you are not going to find it here." 2 guards came and took Maya's arms. As they led her away, she looked back at the crowd. She saw her brother Kevin standing near the back wall. He was looking at the floor, refusing to meet her eyes. They locked Maya in her room. A small space with a bed, a desk, and one window looking out at the stars. She sat on the bed and stared at that window for hours. She did not cry this time. She was too tired for tears. Outside, the stars looked peaceful. Cold and distant, but peaceful. Somewhere out there, something was coming. Maya could feel it like a pressure in her chest. A storm building just over the horizon. She wondered if anyone would remember her after she was gone. She wondered if anyone would understand when the truth finally came that she had tried to save them. The night passed slowly. Maya did not sleep, and in the darkness between the stars, the hunters moved closer. The attack came at 3 a.m, station time. Most people were sleeping. Maya was not. She was sitting at her small desk, writing a letter to her mother back on Earth. She wanted to explain everything, to apologize for being a disappointment, to say goodbye. She was halfway through the second page when the station shook. The vibration was deep and wrong, like a giant hand grabbing the station and squeezing. Maya heard a sound she had never heard before, metal screaming as it tore apart. Then the emergency alarms began, filling the air with their terrible wailing. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside her door. She ran to the window and looked out. What she saw stopped her heart. They were enormous. Creatures the size of buildings, floating in the vacuum of space. Their bodies were a nightmare mix of flesh and machine, covered in dark armor that gleamed in the station's lights. They had too many limbs, some ending in claws like curved blades, others holding strange tools that pulsed with energy. And their faces, if you could call them faces, were clusters of eyes that glowed like angry stars. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They swarmed around the station like sharks around a wounded whale. As Maya watched, one of them grabbed a section of the outer hull and simply pulled it away. Metal tore like cloth. Air rushed out in a white cloud that froze instantly into ice crystals. And something else came out too. Something small and tumbling. People. They were people. Maya turned away from the window. She could not watch anymore. Her door clicked. The lock had disengaged, probably because the attack had damaged power systems throughout the station. Maya did not think about why. She just ran. The corridors were chaos. People running in all directions, screaming, crying. Some were already dead, lying in pools of blood. Maya saw a young woman she recognized from the cafeteria, holding the body of a man who might have been her husband. She saw an old scientist crawling on his hands and knees, mumbling numbers as if trying to solve a math problem. That would make the nightmare go away. Maya pushed through the crowd toward the central hub. She did not have a plan. She just knew she needed to find someone who could fight back. The hub was worse than the corridors. A massive hole had been torn in the viewport, and emergency shields were struggling to maintain air pressure. Bodies lay everywhere. The screaming was constant. And through the damaged walls, Maya could see more of the creatures, working their way deeper into the station. One of them turned and looked directly at her. Maya had studied these things for years. She had imagined what they might look like. She had prepared herself for this moment. But nothing could prepare anyone for the reality. The creature's eyes fixed on her, dozens of them, all at once. She felt its attention like ice water poured into her bones. It was curious, she realized. It was studying her the way she had studied its signals. Then it opened what might have been a mouth, and it made a sound. A clicking, grinding noise that somehow formed into words Maya could understand. Small, it said. Soft, alone. It started moving toward her. Its many limbs carried it forward with terrible grace, covering the distance between them in seconds. Maya could not move. Fear had frozen her in place. Then someone grabbed her arm and pulled her backward. Collins! Come on. It was Commander Price. His face was covered in blood from a wound on his head. His uniform was torn. The confidence and arrogance were gone from his eyes. He looked like a frightened child. What are they? He shouted as they ran. Collins, what are they? Predators, Maya gasped out. Pack hunters. They work together, coordinate through signals. They've been doing this for longer than humanity has existed. How do we stop them? I do not know if we can. They found shelter in a storage room. A small group had gathered there, about 20 people, including some security officers with weapons. Nobody was in charge. Everyone was too scared to think. Commander Price looked at Maya. You knew this was coming. You tried to tell us. I am sorry, I did not listen. Those words should have meant something. 6 years of being mocked, being called crazy, being treated like a joke. And now, with monsters tearing apart the station, the man who had led the mockery was apologizing. Maya should have felt satisfied. She felt nothing. There was no time for feelings. "I built something," she said. "A device. It might help." "What kind of device?" "A signal jammer. These creatures communicate through specific frequencies. If I can broadcast interference on those frequencies, it might confuse them, break their coordination." "Where is this device?" "Hidden in the lower engineering section. I built it in secret because I knew nobody would approve." Price nodded. "Then we go there. Now." They moved through the dying station like ghosts. Everywhere they went, they found more bodies. The creatures were not just killing people. They were taking them. Maya saw one of the monsters carrying 5 humans under its limbs, all of them still alive. All of them screaming. She tried not to think about what would happen to those people. The lower engineering section was quieter. The creatures had not reached this area yet. Maya found her device where she had hidden it, behind a wall panel in a maintenance tunnel. It was small, about the size of a lunchbox, covered in wires and switches. "This is it?" Price asked. "This little thing is going to save us?" "It is a prototype. I never had the chance to test it properly. But the theory is sound. If I can disrupt their communication, they should lose coordination. It might buy us time." "Might?" Maya looked at him. "It is all we have." She powered on the device. For a long moment, nothing happened. The station groaned around them. Somewhere above, people were still screaming. Then the device hummed to life. Maya adjusted the frequencies, searching for the right bands. The ones she had listened to for so many years. She found them. And she began to broadcast. The first sign that it was working came from the security cameras. Someone had managed to get a few screens running in their shelter, showing images from different parts of the station. Through the static and damage, they could see the creatures, and the creatures were having problems. One of them stopped in the middle of a corridor, its many limbs twitching like a broken machine. Another crashed into a wall, then crashed into another wall, then fell to the floor and lay still. 2 of the monsters tried to move through the same doorway at the same time and got stuck, their limbs tangling together as they struggled. "It is working," breathed Ensign Nicole Grant, one of the security officers. She was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and frightened eyes. But there was hope in her voice now. "Whatever you are doing, it is actually working." Maya did not celebrate. She watched the screens and saw the truth. The creatures were confused, yes, but they were adapting. Even as she watched, their movements started becoming smoother. The interference was not strong enough to stop them completely. It was only slowing them down. "The signal is too weak," she said. "This device was meant to be a test. If I can connect it to the station's main communications array, I can boost the power 100 times. Maybe 1,000. That might be enough to really hurt them." Commander Price looked at the screens. The creatures were recovering. Some were already moving normally again. "Where is the main communications array?" "Outer Ring. Section 7. That is on the other side of the station. We would have to go through areas that are full of those things." "I know." Nicole Grant stepped forward. "I will go with her. I am not going to sit here and wait to die." Others volunteered too, but Maya shook her head. "A big group will attract attention. I need someone who can move quietly and watch my back." She looked around the room and found a face she recognized. "Kevin, come with me." Her brother was sitting in the corner, staring at nothing. He had not spoken since the attack began. When Maya said his name, he flinched like she had slapped him. "Me? Why me?" "Because you are my brother. Because you owe me. And because you are the best engineer on this station, and I might need help connecting the device." Kevin stood up slowly. His face was pale and his hands were shaking, but he nodded. "Okay, let us go." They moved through the station like shadows. Maya led the way because she knew the layout better than anyone. 6 years of being alone, with nothing to do but work, had taught her every tunnel, every shortcut, every hiding place. The damage was worse than she had expected. Whole sections of the station had been torn open to space. Bodies floated in areas where gravity had failed. The creatures had left marks everywhere. Claw scratches on walls, strange burns on floors, and sometimes dark stains that Maya did not want to think about. They had to stop twice when creatures passed nearby. The first time, they hid in a storage closet and listened to the clicking footsteps pass inches from their door. The second time, they pressed themselves into a maintenance shaft and held their breath while a monster moved through the corridor below. Kevin was crying silently. Tears ran down his face, but he made no sound. At one point, when they were crawling through a narrow tunnel, he grabbed Maya's hand. "I am sorry," he whispered. "For everything. For not believing you. For being ashamed of you. You were right about everything, and I was a coward." Maya squeezed his hand. "Save it for later. Apologize after we survive." They reached the communications hub after what felt like hours. The room was half destroyed. A creature had torn through here at some point, leaving wreckage and broken equipment. But the main array was still standing, its antenna reaching up through the station's hull toward the stars. Maya got to work. She opened panels, connected wires, rerouted power from damaged systems to working ones. Kevin helped, his hands steadier now that he had something to focus on. They worked in silence, communicating through gestures and nods. The device connected to the array. Power flowed. The small humming sound became a deep vibration that Maya could feel in her teeth. "It is ready," she said. "When I activate this, the signal will go out at full strength. Every creature within 100,000 kilometers will feel it. And what will that do to them? I do not know. Maybe it will hurt them. Maybe it will drive them away. Maybe it will just make them angry." Maya looked at her brother. "But we have to try." Kevin nodded. "Do it." Maya pressed the activation switch. The effect was instant and violent. Through the damaged walls, Maya saw creatures convulse. Their limbs froze. Their eyes flickered. Some of them started spinning in circles, lost and confused. Others simply stopped moving entirely, floating dead in space. But one creature did not stop. It was bigger than the others, older maybe, with more eyes and longer limbs. The signal clearly hurt it. Its body twitched and sparked. But it kept coming, smashing through walls, following the source of the signal that was causing its kind so much pain. It was coming from Maya. "Run!" Kevin shouted. They ran. Behind them, the creature tore through the communications hub. Metal screamed. Sparks flew. Maya heard that clicking voice again, but now it was making sounds of rage. They reached a heavy door, and Kevin slammed it shut, locking it with an emergency seal. Seconds later, something massive crashed against the door from the other side. The metal bulged inward but held. "That will not stop it for long," Kevin said. Maya was already looking for another way out. She found a maintenance hatch in the floor and pulled it open. "Down here, go." They dropped into the tunnel below just as the door above gave way. The creature screamed in frustration, too big to follow them through the narrow passage. Behind them, above them, all around them, Maya could hear the sounds of the attack changing. The coordinated assault was falling apart. Creatures were retreating, flying away from the station, heading back toward the dark space they had come from. Her signal was working. Humanity had a weapon. Now they just had to survive long enough to use it. The creatures left as the sun rose over the nearby planet. Not a real sunrise, of course, but that is what the station crew called it when the planet's star came into view through the windows. It felt right. After the longest night of their lives, The survivors watched the light creep across the damaged station and dared to hope Maya and Kevin made it back to the shelter where the others waited. They were dirty, exhausted, and covered in cuts and bruises. But they were alive. When they walked through the door, someone started clapping. Then everyone was clapping, cheering, crying with relief. Commander Price walked up to Maya. His face was serious. He did not smile, did not try to make this moment lighter than it was. "You saved us," he said simply. "Everyone here, everyone on this station who is still breathing, owes you their life." Maya nodded. She was too tired for words. The count took 3 days. When it was finished, the numbers were hard to accept. 847 people dead. Nearly a third of the station's population. Some had been killed in the attack. Some had been taken by the creatures and never seen again. The youngest victim was 6 years old. The oldest was 83, but almost 2,000 people had survived. Without Maya's device, without her years of research that everyone had mocked, none of them would have made it. Rescue ships arrived from nearby colonies. They brought doctors, supplies, and reporters who wanted to know everything. The story of Kepler Station spread across human space. The story of the creatures, which scientists started calling coordinators because of how they communicated. And the story of Maya Collins, the woman nobody believed. Maya did not want to be famous. She spent the first week after the attack avoiding cameras and turning down interview requests. But the story was too big to ignore. People needed to know what had happened. They needed to understand the threat they faced. So Maya told her story. She sat in front of cameras and explained everything. The signals, the patterns, the years of being laughed at and dismissed. She showed her research. She showed the device that had saved them. She did not sugarcoat anything. "I was right," she said during one interview. "But I wish more than anything that I had been wrong." The interviewer, a young man with perfect hair and a sympathetic expression, asked the question everyone was thinking. "What do we do now? Are the coordinators coming back?" Maya looked directly at the camera. "Yes, they're still out there. They are still hunting." What happened at Kepler Station was not a defeat for them. It was a lesson. They will learn from it and adapt. The next attack will be different, maybe worse. We need to prepare. Her warning spread faster than any of her previous warnings had. This time, people listened. Governments and military leaders who had never heard of Maya Collins suddenly wanted meetings with her. Scientists who had once called her a fool now asked to study her work. In 3 months, Maya went from a disgraced junior officer to the most important person in human space. Commander Price resigned from his position. At a public memorial for the victims of Kepler Station, he stood before thousands of people and admitted his failures. "I was supposed to protect the people under my command," he said. His voice broke several times as he spoke. "Instead, I silenced the one person who could have saved them sooner. I do not ask for forgiveness. I only ask that you learn from my mistake. When someone sees danger that you cannot see, listen to them. When someone speaks an uncomfortable truth, do not punish them for it. We almost lost everything because of my pride." Kevin Collins was in the crowd that day. He found Maya afterward, standing alone near the memorial wall where names of the dead were carved. "Price was brave to say all that," Kevin said quietly. "Most people would have made excuses." Maya nodded. She was reading the names on the wall. So many names. So many people who would never go home. "I was not brave," Kevin continued. "I was a coward. I let other people's opinions matter more than my own sister. I do not expect you to forgive me." Maya finally looked at him. A brother who had played with her as a child, who had joined the space service with her, who had abandoned her when she needed him most. He looked older now. The attack had aged him in ways that time alone could not. "I forgive you," she said. Kevin stared at her. Just like that? Just like that. Maya turned back to the wall. Life is too short for holding grudges, Kevin. We learned that the hard way. They stood together in silence for a long time, reading names and remembering faces. 6 months after the attack, Maya was promoted to commander and given control of a new organization called the Threat Analysis Division. Her job was simple: find the next danger before it found humanity. She had a team of researchers, access to every telescope and sensor in human space, and the full support of governments that had finally learned to be afraid. On her first day in charge, Maya addressed her new team. They were an unusual group: scientists who had been ignored, officers who had seen things they could not explain, engineers who built devices that should not work but did. They were the misfits, the outcasts, the ones who saw patterns in the chaos that others missed. "We got lucky," Maya told them. "We survived because one person refused to give up, even when everyone said she was wrong. But luck runs out. The coordinators are not the only threat out there. The universe is vast and old and full of things we do not understand. Our job is to watch, to listen, to warn. And when people laugh at us, we keep working anyway." She looked at their faces. These strange and brilliant people who had been given a second chance. "The next time something comes out of the darkness, humanity will be ready. We will make sure of it." Far away, in the cold space between stars, the coordinators gathered. They had lost many of their kind in the attack on Kepler Station. They had learned that these small, soft creatures were more dangerous than they appeared. But they were patient. They had hunted across galaxies for millions of years. One setback meant nothing. They would return. They would adapt. They would learn. But so would humanity. And next time, the monsters would find that their prey had become something else entirely, something that could fight back. The stars kept their secrets. But Maya Collins was watching, listening, waiting. And she would never stop, not until the darkness itself was afraid of the light.